Welcome to DestinationOman. I'm Deepak Nair, the founder and editor of this portal, which was launched in 2001. Today, we have with us Mr. Suresh Joseph, who has been following his passions since 2010, having worked with Indian Railways and having been a corporate executive before. He has traveled 53 countries, and Oman happens to be his 53rd country of exploration, which he has been touring since 11th May, and his trip would conclude on 19th May 2022. This interview is being conducted before his departure to India and to find out his impressions on Oman. You've been traveling in Oman for a week now. How has been the experience?
As you know, I have been in Oman since the 10th of May when I landed from Chennai. For 8 full days I have been traveling in Oman. 4 days I've spent in Muscat and 4 days I've spent in Salalah. I would say that this is not enough time to actually see the whole country, but I've just been to 2 of the most important cities of this country and short visits to Sur and Wadi Bani, Khalid and places like that. But what I have seen in these 8 days has really taken my breath away. I would say that it is one of the most unique experiences that I've had. There are more seasons to see, there are more places to see. So I would say that I go back with some of the finest memories that I have gathered on a tour.
What is the most striking aspect according to you?
It's a very difficult question that you're posing to me as to what is the most striking aspect about this country. Well, I've seen so much of it, it's very difficult to make comparisons to say what is the most striking aspect. But having driven all over the world, I would say that the thing that comes foremost to my mind is the kind of road conditions that you have here. Amazing roads, wherever you go. Whatever the kind of terrain, whether it is the hills or whether it is the seas, you are passing through village roads, you're passing through metros, amazing road infrastructure. And I was told that all this has come up in the last, say, maybe less than a decade. I would say my hats off to whoever has done this for this country. It is an amazing contribution not only to the locals, but I would say that this should be a kind of a stimulus for people like me who would like to come and do self-driving. So therefore, I would say if I were to pinpoint just one aspect of what really struck me, I would say that it is the road infrastructure. When you talk about road infrastructure, it is not just enough to talk about the physical road infrastructure, but it is also important to mention the kind of discipline which road users observe when they are on the road. I've never found people honking or cutting lanes. And I'm told that the traffic department or the police department is extremely hard on people who violate traffic laws. I'm very happy that it is enforced and people follow the rules, and the disciplined road usage also ensures that you are able to use the road much faster than you would normally do anywhere else. For instance, on the stretches that you are permitted to drive, say, 120 kilometers per hour, I'm told that you have even given there is even a grace percentage of 10%, so that you can even drive at 130, 135, and the road infrastructure is top class. So that is one thing which I'll take back as a lasting memory, the kind of road infrastructure that you have here.
Of the places you visited, which would you rate among the best?
Now, comparisons are very odious. You're asking me which is the best place that I have visited in Oman. It's very difficult to answer such questions because wherever I have been, I've really enjoyed myself and I've seen something very unique and truly wonderful in these places. But if you still badger me and ask me for the best place that I have been to, I would say that it was the drive from Salalah to Hasik. I mean, that was a fascinating drive, and I would compare it to the kind of drive I had in Turkey very recently when I was driving along the Mediterranean coast. And this drive to Hasik with the mountains on one side and the sea on the other with superb road infrastructure, that should certainly strike me as the best place that I visited. Having said that, I would say that even the trip to places like the Manif cave, the drive to the Yemeni border, all these are lasting impressions of this place.
What struck you about Omani hospitality?
When you talk about Omani hospitality, I guess you're talking about the local people of Oman. Unfortunately, I hang my head in shame while telling you that I did not have the time to actually do that, because I was too busy running around, seeing the places and getting to the bottom of the kind of historical perspective of Oman as a country, the kind of religious background that this country has. It has a lot of importance as far as the Bible is concerned, so also the Quran. So I was too immersed in this to actually experience the hospitality part of it. I'm sure I'll be back someday to experience that.
Did you get a chance to interact with citizens of Oman or sample Omani cuisine? In your interaction with Omani people, what did you discover about the unique Omani treat?
As I mentioned in the previous question, I truly did not have much time to experience the Omani hospitality. But I did experience a little bit of the cuisine. I really didn't do full justice to it, but the fact is that, having a sweet tooth, I certainly did sample the halwa. And I'm telling you, that is something which went straight into the heart. This experience came to me when I was visiting the Mirbad Castle. Yes, when I was visiting there, the staff who was there offered me a cup of kava coffee and a small portion of the halwa. That was really outstanding. I've never had halwa of that type. I have had halwa from various parts of India and even in places like Turkey, but this was something special. So that, and at one of the morning breakfast timing, I had a particular kind of sweet bread, which is typical to Oman. These two were my only examples of experiencing Omani cuisine. So, like I said, I will be back for more. And if you ask me to single out an Omani trait which I noticed, that certainly has to be their helping mentality. Because I found that even on the highways where people were stuck, the cars had broken down, I found that the other car had come, which was coming from behind it, stopped, and then they were willing to help out. In fact, there was an accident of a truck which I saw on one of the highways, and there was a huge lot of people out there trying to help out those people who were in distress on that truck. So that, I would say, is something which struck me, because I don't think in any other part of the world you will find people so very willing to help people who are in distress on the road when they have an accident or a breakdown. But that is again something which I noticed when I traveled around in Oman.
Did the places you visited here in Oman remind you of anywhere else?
Muscat did not remind me of any other place, but when I was in Salalah, the first day I stayed in Crown Plaza, and the route to Crown Plaza, when we were on the way, for a moment I thought that I was traveling in Kerala. So that is one place which looked like as if a slice of Kerala has broken off and got attached to another portion of the world. And the kind of plantations that you see there, the coconut farms, the papaya farms, the very, very thick growth of pepper vines, and banana plantations. I mean, these are things which transports you back into another part of the world. And I must say that I don't think in Kerala we have these kind of farms anymore. So these plantations, banana plantations and coconut farms are probably much better here than you would find there. And some parts of Tamil Nadu also does come close to what we see in Salala. So I would say that is the closest I could find in resemblance to any other part of the world.
What was the most enjoyable or memorable part of this trip?
The most enjoyable part of this trip, as far as I was concerned, was to discover the historical moorings of this part of the world. In fact, the visit to Khor Rori and the Al-Balid Archaeological Park gave me a kind of a fantastic connect from the 3rd century BC to the 17th century. Something like 20 centuries were being connected through these two archaeological sites. While Khor Rori was a pre-Islamic site which was there from the 3rd century BC to the 5th century AD. The Al-Balid was from the 8th century to the 17th century. Walking around there, you could virtually feel the kind of trade and the kind of relationships that were there between the Dhofar region and the rest of the world, be it the Mediterranean or the Indian or any other part of the world. This seems to have been, sort of strategically positioned to distribute as well as to receive. The day before, when I visited Khor Rori, I could make out how that particular, I can't call it civilization, that particular continuity of history dropped, because having worked in a port, I could make out that was located at the mouth of the Indian Ocean, and it was a lagoon, which is a protected lagoon, and ships were coming in from the Indian Ocean into that lagoon. But over a period of time, the sandbars started forming, and then they did not have the technology of dredging at that point in time. And over a period of time, they found that the sail ships were not coming there, and trade died, and then the people had to move away from there, and then Al-Balid came up. So, when you go to these places and sort of link it up to your experience in the past, that gives me a lot of satisfaction, because I feel that, you're part of that sweep of history, which takes you through, you can even feel the way people lived during those times, how trade was conducted, what are the kind of foods they were eating. So that was one of the very, very enjoyable parts of my visit to Oman. And the most memorable part, I would say, is the kind of the way people looked after me in Oman. I really did not experience Omani hospitality, but the hospitality which I received, the love that I have received from people who I met here, and astonishingly, these were people who I did not know before. They were people who I came to know through Facebook, and even people like you, you came forward and sort of opened your home door to me, and your hospitality was so welcome to me for a person who was coming here for the first time. I would say that it made my trip that much more easier. And when I went to Salala, I had 3-4 people looking after me and taking me around, making sure that I enjoy the best of Oman. So I would thank all of you in Muscat and Salala who have looked after me, and that remains certainly the most memorable part of my trip.
Will you consider visiting Oman to visit places that you may have missed out this time? What would you want to do next time?
Have no doubts, I'm going to come back to Oman again. You have asked me whether I would like to come back to Oman. Certainly I would want to come back. But I would like to come back in a different season. Much as I would like to believe that whatever time of the year you go to a country, you have something very unique to see. I certainly want to come back and enjoy Oman during the Kharif season. I have been told so much about it, and this morning one of my hosts in Salala, Hashim Mohammed, he sent me a lot of photographs of the Kharif season, and the very same places which I had visited there during this trip. He showed me the kind of difference that normally happens during the Kharif. and boy, my mouth watered. I have to be back here to see that, and I want to experience that. I don't know whether it's going to be this year or the next year, but I certainly will be back in Oman to experience the Kharif season. The next, of course, if I want, I certainly want to drive around a little bit more in Oman. I tried that this time, but did not succeed because even though I had booked a vehicle well in advance from Chennai, from a service provider at the Muscat International Airport, when I went there to pick up the vehicle, I was denied the hire because they said that they cannot hire the vehicle to a person who has an Indian passport or even an IDP issued from India. And I found the excuse given to be most ridiculous, because they said that you drive your vehicle on the other side of the road. So when you come here, you can't be having that experience to drive in Oman. I have driven in close to 40 countries all over the world. I have driven from Cochin to London, and you would know that most of the countries have you drive on the right side of the road. But I found that excuse very, very strange. Fortunately for me, a friend of mine did get me a hire, but at a much higher rate, but that was only to drive around in Muscat. When I come back next time, I hope the rental companies would have had much better sense prevailing, and I would be able to hire a vehicle and then drive this distance and probably to the other places of interest in Oman. So that remains a small, left to do kind of a thing. I need to come back and drive a little bit more. Even though technically I have driven in Oman, I want to drive this distance, this 1,100 kilometers between Muscat and Salalah.
As an avid globetrotter, what would be your suggestions to make tourism better in Oman?
That everybody waits for the Kharif season, and possibly an addition to that is November, December. So tourism seems to be limited to just about 4 to 5 months in a year in Oman. And there's a lot that can be done because these very same places are available right around the year. So you have different aspects which can be highlighted. Of the same place, you can have different aspects highlighted. But I find that there's not much of an effort from the government to promote that. In fact, the kind of drive I told you from Salalah to Hasik, it's something which is fantastic. A lot of viewpoints have been developed by the government, but at the same time, I find that there is not enough facilities available at the site during the non-peak season. For instance, if I want to have a cup of coffee in one of these places, it's impossible. In fact, there's no food available. There's no proper decent places to have some food on that way. So I feel that the government should do something to promote this as a year-round activity. One of the things that probably the government can do is to generate some more revenues during the peak season, so that money can be plugged back into developing it into a all-around, year-round facility. In fact, there are many caves which today, if you can have a kind of a light and sound show in the evenings, that could generate a lot of revenue even during the non-peak season. So the government, I feel, should generate additional revenues. I'm not saying that there should be extortionist entrance fees and things like that, but there are many places where there is no entrance fee at all. In fact, as a tourist, I feel that I feel guilty that I have not contributed to the development of that place, as a tourist haven. So I would certainly exhort the government to make sure that these places are available round the clock, round the year, as a tourist destination. And I have a feeling, I don't know whether it is the government deliberately doing it or otherwise, Oman is underselling itself as a tourist destination. I feel that they should be going around having road shows. This is a place where, it will definitely appeal to the Asian crowd, and I have seen a lot of Western crowd also coming here, but during the season. But they certainly would like to come and see the beaches and use the beaches during the summer season too. So I certainly would appeal to the government to put its best foot forward and make it a year-round tourist destination.